our panel of legal and political experts to talk about, obviously, this big day that we've been watching here. Jamie Gengel, first to you. Do you think this final public meeting of this committee, following so many hearings that we've watched, met the moment?
I do. It was historic. It was significant. We have never seen Congress do this kind of criminal referral. And I think also the breadth of the criminal referral. We have lawyers here who can speak to this more, but there were 4 significant statutes that they brought. And I think that in talking to former Justice Department folks, other legal experts, some former federal judges, they think that the evidence, one said to me, was overwhelming. There's a different question about whether the Justice Department thinks they can convict, whether they have the political will, but I think what Congress did today was absolutely significant.
It's when you think, Norm, specifically on this criminal referral of assisting or aiding an insurrection, that's a charge that is rarely used. It's hard to prove. What did you make of that being included?
It hasn't been used since the Civil War. Of the 4 charges that were brought today, it's the least likely actually to be charged by the Department of Justice. But in some ways, it's the most important because, Brianna, part of the reason this committee has been so effective throughout, constant surprises, this was a surprise, but they also meet the moment with drama. This lays down a marker, and I think it is true. Former President Trump aided and gave comfort to an insurrection. He assisted an insurrection. He was part of an insurrection. And so it lays down a marker, and it will be very important. Caitlin and I were talking on the break, very important in one of the big legal battlefronts of the next 2 years. From coast to coast, people are going to try to get Donald Trump removed from the ballot because under the 14th Amendment, Section 3 of the Constitution, just wrote a big report about this with Pogo, under the 14th Amendment, if you give aid and comfort to insurrectionists, you help them, or you're part of an insurrection, you can't run for president.
Right. That's the overarching case, right? That they're making here that he's unfit to hold office again. But I wonder, Shan, is there a situation where you see that this referral is made and then DOJ doesn't even go that direction?
Unlikely that they could completely ignore this referral. This is not your dad's referral, like the Oldsmobile commercial. This is extremely comprehensive, and it does set out a roadmap. Even in the executive summary, which is like 150 plus pages, it sets out a roadmap, and it really is written for the prosecutors as well as the American public. They even give them a little pep talk pointing out that you just got a big conviction in conspiracies that were not unlike this one.
And Caitlin, I wonder, as people pour over this executive summary, all 154 pages of it, as I know they're going to be doing, tonight as part of their evening reading, there's also 2 additional charges that are mentioned in here that they talk about having evidence of, 2 possible charges, right? Conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer and seditious conspiracy. Walk us through what that means, why these 2 are in there, what questions that raises.
Well, if you read it very closely, they're quite clear why they're in there. Today we're here, we're talking about so much finality, final report, final hearing, the end of this Congress, the end of this committee's work. But they are acknowledging by including those 2 additional charges that the Justice Department's investigation is ongoing. Not just Special Counsel Jack Smith's work, but the investigation into extremist groups and rioters. And whenever they write about this, the very last line of that section says, the Justice Department, through its investigative tools that exceed those of the committee, may have evidence sufficient to prosecute President Trump under these. They are about rioters. And we even are seeing right now, there's another Oath Keepers seditious conspiracy trial that's teed up for the coming months. The Proud Boys that are charged with seditious conspiracy, they're just starting jury selection this week. And so those cases are very big cases that there could be a lot of things that happen in them. There could be more cooperators. There could be more investigative findings. That's how the committee is not ready to say, conclusively what they found there, because there could be a lot of other findings that the Justice Department takes on.
Could I just say what they did was they left the door open for the Justice Department. They didn't have sufficient evidence themselves, but they wanted it out there for the record.
Totally.
They wanted it out there for the record. Does it dilute the findings at all, in your opinion, Shan?
Oh, not at all. I mean, they have a different focus than a prosecutorial process memo would have, and so they're doing the right thing in putting it all out there. And there is deference to DOJ here, but they've given them a good lead and even a little bit of encouragement.
Is that even some encouragement? Is that how you're reading it, Norm?
Well, they were very disciplined. They thought like prosecutors. So really, the referrals themselves, the core of the referrals, Trump and Eastman, the client and his lead outside coup counsel, this was an attempted coup, not with soldiers, with lawyers. So they focus on that. They hit other lawyers very hard, Jeffrey Clark, Ken Chesborough, Clark within government, Chesborough outside of government. Meadows, Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff, gets tough treatment. But that's Giuliani. But that's the short list. There's a lot of discipline there. And then to focus on the ones at the top, I thought it was very effective.
We have more ahead to talk about here. We also have some breaking news just into this. And we are back now with our legal and political experts unpacking these historic moves today by the January 6th Select Committee. The panel recommending the Justice Department prosecute former President Trump on 4 criminal charges. So let's talk about some more of what happened today here. Norm, the committee says later this week it's going to hand over all of its evidence. So this is a lot, right? We're talking about interview transcripts. They did more than 1,000 interviews, and that is what the Justice Department, that's what they're really interested in, right? Getting their hands on here. How much will that help DOJ?
I think it will help DOJ. DOJ has been catching up, but they were behind this committee, and you have a bunch of very experienced former federal prosecutors who have steered this investigation. So Merrick Garland has said publicly, I want those transcripts. And he is a man of his word. He really does want them, and so do his prosecutors. It will help a lot.
I was asking Congressman Aguilar about, would he have some regrets if they held on to this information until now, didn't give DOJ this time? Because this investigation is so far underway, right? No, he did not say that he would have regrets. But I wonder what you think, Shan, about that, if DOJ should have gotten this information sooner.
I think it's wise not to have gotten it to them sooner because it protects the integrity of the committee's work. It doesn't look like they're just a lead or an agent for DOJ, and they needed to complete their own work, complete their own summaries, and now for the public and for DOJ, they can hand that off. And so much of their work was so critical for DOJ, not just the transcripts and such, but they have gone through the same legal arguments the DOJ has to go through, thinking about the defenses, pointing out, hey, there have already been court cases that took care of these defenses. That's really valuable too.
Jamie, what do you make of the committee referring these 4 Republicans who defied congressional subpoenas to the Ethics Committee instead of to DOJ?
So I think it's probably dead on arrival because the Ethics Committee is a 50-50 committee. It's the only one like that in the House. And let's just take a look at who these 4 are. There were actually 5. But Mo Brooks lost his seat, so he was not referred because he's no longer under the jurisdiction. But you have Kevin McCarthy, who may very well be the next Speaker of the House. You have Jim Jordan, who's going to be the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I can't imagine that the Republicans on the House Ethics Committee are going to let anything go forward when those 2 men are in leadership.
What's really going on here, Norm?
Well, I will say what is going on is the committee has to do something to respond to this defiance of lawful subpoenas. It's a gesture with one exception. One of the 4 is Scott Perry, Representative Scott Perry, who was an integral part of these schemes. And in a warning sign, DOJ has seized his phone. So that is a signal of peril. And depending on what DOJ found on that phone, what they do with Scott Perry, he may have real risk as the case evolves before the Ethics Committee or not.
But Norm, isn't it more likely that that's going to be the Justice Department? I mean, Kevin McCarthy's a material witness, Scott Perry, more likely DOJ than House Ethics.
Well, but the information that DOJ throws off may lead to ethics issues for him too.
I defer.
I love it. Jamie, Norm, Shan, Caitlin, thank you so much to all of you this evening. Just